Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
I'm just out of it. So who are we going to talk to today?
Well, today we're going to talk to my very good friend and drummer for all of the bands that I've been in. I guess just the one, really. Bo Griffin.
All one of them?
All one
Okay.
of them.
I know Bo. I'm curious if he remembers me, but we were in drumline for a couple years together.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
all
sure he'll
right.
remember you. Yeah,
Perfect.
let's do this. Welcome to the podcast, Bo.
Give me 1 sec.
Hey,
Okay.
everybody. All right, well, okay, we'll start over with the welcomes again. Do we need intro music?
Nah.
No.
Have you not seen the show before?
I watched a little bit, but I didn't watch the whole podcast. I guess, yeah, you guys didn't do an intro.
We have a little animated graphic that Sophie sings mics on mics in a chord, and that's
Okay.
it. So
All right.
No, we hopped to it.
Mics on mics, yeah.
Well, hello. So nice of you to join me tonight.
yes.
No?
Every once in a while, Mike Nemex's camera decides to freeze. Hey, there
All
it
right.
goes. It's back.
I didn't even do anything. I was about to go
Even better.
disable, re-enable. So, all right, fine.
I think it works. We'll just stick with
So,
what's-
Mike, who's your friend?
This is Bo Griffin.
Hello.
He's been a drummer friend of mine since high school, I guess. Yeah,
10th
I know
grade.
Bo.
Yeah.
10th
We know
grade.
Bo.
Probably your 10th grade. My 11th grade-ish. Yeah, because I'm a year older than you. Yeah.
That's true.
Right. Bo and I were in the same class. Graduated in
Yes, we
93.
were. Which I did not think was. I thought you were his age, and I had to go look you up in the yearbook, which I have. If you guys want to see it, we have photos. But
There you go.
so
yeah,
I'd have to
no,
go to the next room to grab it.
You went to Bedford Junior High, correct?
I went to Bedford Junior High, Shady
Okay.
Oaks Elementary School, and LD Bell High School.
Yeah, I was one of the interesting bunch that went to Central, and then Central got split, and
Yeah.
most of my friends went to Trinity.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but I didn't make too many new friends at Bell, mainly
Yeah.
because I was hanging out with my friends from junior high. So, but yes, we were in drumline together for 2 years. I didn't
Yes,
do
we were.
band my senior year. I mean, I was in drumline 10th grade,
That's right.
marched with cymbals, and then in
May I share
11th
my
grade,
screen?
I was in the pit.
Oh,
Go for it, man.
You're gonna try,
Yeah.
and it's gonna deny you. So stand by.
Keep going. So you symbols. 11th grade, you were in the pit.
And
Sideline
yeah,
ensemble is what they call it these days.
we were working with Don Click, I believe his name, from North Texas.
Can you see my screen?
There we go.
That would be
Yeah.
Don Click with the nice
There he is.
mustache there. Oh, hey, let me get this stuff off
And
the screen.
there's Brian Youngblood.
There's Brian Youngblood, who, by the way, looks about the same today as he did back then.
That's awesome. And there's Alice.
And if I recall,
There I am.
that is Mike Nemec. And up
And-
here behind, this was Steve, head of the quad line. No, this is the low bass drummer.
Yeah.
Also Steve.
Also Steve, not Dooley, the
Yeah.
other guy.
Yeah, Steve Dooley's over on the other end. And there I am,
There's-
like, frowning with my big glasses on behind a plume that's blowing in the wind.
So I remember you marched
Yeah.
with bassline 1 year. Did you do snare or quints another?
I did bass line my first year, second bass.
Okay.
I played snare line. This was our junior year.
Right.
And so I was the snare way out on the end. And then my senior year, I was on the tenor drums, these things over here, or quints or quads or
The
whatever
quints.
we call them.
We had 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I tried one of each.
Very,
Oh.
very cool. Yeah. That brings back
That
memories. I
is-
probably have one of those hidden away somewhere.
That is so. This photo, when I was talking about, I was going to be meeting with you guys. Matt Olmsted, who I still hang out with quite a bit, who I guess went to junior high with you.
Yeah, he went to Central. Yep.
Right there.
There he is.
He sent me
He
this
played
photo.
quints.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
so, it's like a picture of a picture. And so that was the LD Bell drumline.
That is
and-
greatness.
And
Yeah, I mean, Matt went to Central, and he started percussion in 7th grade, I believe.
Mhm.
I actually tried to, and the band director was not having it.
yeah.
Too many drummers.
Yep.
And so I played trumpet or cornet for 2 years, and then 9th grade I'm like, I'm doing beginner band or nothing, and so they
Yeah.
let me be in percussion and beginner band.
Oh, you went back and started over.
Yeah, I started
Oh,
over,
all
which is
right.
one reason I wasn't that as good as I could have or should have been, or as everybody else, because I was 10th grade was my second year playing drums.
No. All right. Well, yeah, I started like before I was even in junior high. You know, I knew I was going to be a drummer for a long time. I was banging on everything, and neighbor kid had a drum set, and my mom finally got so sick of me that she started paying him to give me lessons, even though he wasn't really qualified to do it. Didn't matter. I got better because he gave me homework, and so I'd go do it, and then so I went to the tryouts for 7th grade band, and I made it. But I also remember that because my last name starts with G, I had a pretty good odds. By the time they got halfway through the alphabet, the percussion
full.
class was full. And so, like, there was a kid that started with S, and he wound up playing, baritone or something like that. Although he was better than, other people that would have been on drumline. Feel sorry for that guy. So, yeah.
Yeah,
guess
that's the way it happened apparently.
It really. And I went to Bedford Junior High. Dan Prado was our director, and he just died about 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah, he passed away. His obituary was in the paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you
So,
want
It's not like we're getting old or anything.
Since you're sharing, do you want to go ahead and show us another picture you got of yourself? Or two?
Let's see. All right, so I set this up so I don't have previews. Oh, yeah, I do. I have some previews.
There we go. That's a good one.
We'll go straight into college hair. Yeah, so definitely didn't
Nice.
cut my hair a lot in high school or college, and that's about the scruffiest I ever got.
Yeah.
But we're talking about music more than hair, so.
Well, that's just to let people know that it's there. It's just the potential.
That is.
It feels right. Feels like you should have been in a band of some kind at that point.
I think I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. I don't know here. Oh wait, no, that's not the one I was gonna talk about. Oh hey, look, there's pictures of me. I am.
So that drum set right there. So Brian Isbell died of cancer. I mean, it's been a minute.
2012.
2012, yeah. 11 years ago.
June 23rd, 2012. That's the one I was looking for. But since
with the bass.
the picture of me on the picture of. Let's get back over to the drum set though. There's one with my kid at the drum set.
I think it's third one from the right.
There it is, yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
That was Brian Isbell's drum set when he died, and we between me, Matt, and Micah Thurlow, if you remember that guy. He would have joined the band your senior year, and you weren't in it.
So I was out. Yep.
Yeah. We passed that thing around, played several gigs with it, made sure that the rock stayed in the drums. Those were all the cymbals I had, that many of which I bought from Ken Hood, if you remember him.
I do remember Ken Hood. Yeah.
Yeah, my first drum set I got from him. I bought it because he was trying to get rid of it at the time. And
he played quints, right?
He played snare drum for 2 years and then he dropped out. No, he played snare drum for 1 year and dropped out, I think. I don't think he went back to marching band.
He was like a really young snare drum, wasn't he?
He was. Well, he was...
he had big hair, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he in that photo?
He should have been...
We have pictures of him.
In that photo. We have other pictures of him. Let's go back to that photo. He should have been... Where was he this year?
Wow, Shipple Brockray.
Yeah, Shilpa. Right there.
There she is.
Where was Ken? I feel like he should have been in there. But...
I think he's one down from Shilpa. No? No, that's...
No, that's Steve Dooley. That was Brian somebody. This is
Brian Hull.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Maybe he just wasn't there that day.
Yeah, no worries.
I
We'll
don't.
get hung up.
I do have a picture of him, though.
Yeah, well, he'll show up later in the story. So, all right. Now, how do I get back to my little... There we are. So, yeah, Yeah, Brian got the cancer. It's very sad, but we were. Oh, there's me playing a gig with just people you've never met on that exact drum set. I'll leave it there since I can't keep not finding the drum set. Um, and so, yeah, a bunch of us, because we saw it was coming. He survived 17 years after he got cancer, and so this last kind of few days, a lot of us flew out to Baltimore. He was at Johns Hopkins out there, and we spent a lot of time with him in the hospital. We had people like sending in emails, and so we're reading him notes, like even Mr. Youngblood, who will show up a lot of times throughout our story time here, was sending in emails, and we're reading him stories and talking to him and stuff. And so I wasn't there the exact day he passed, but I was there about 2 days before. So yeah. And when we were helping his widow clean out their stuff, we said, and his mom especially wanted those drums to go to his friends and get used. And so they really did. They got used a lot. And this is just some of the proof of, I played them often. Matt played them often. Matt is a high school drumline teacher, and so he did a percussion ensemble concert where his kids played those drums. And we flew out Brian's wife from Baltimore, and so she could actually participate, like be an audience member in that and everything. They kind of recognized her, so
That's great.
it was nice that we got to do all that stuff. But I think we're going back a little further towards the beginning, right? Like, so yeah, did drumming at home, drumming in high school, drumming in rock bands. I was always in some sort of a band. I think the first band I was in was built out of our junior high band, and it was all the kids that wanted to play more. So I played the drums. Portapotty was on saxophone. We had another drummer who played like some keyboards, and I think had a trumpet player, and his name escapes me. He went pro, like he was a professional jazz player later in life. We call ourselves the Vomit Bunnies because Mansour decided to name us that.
That feels
That sounds
right
like
for
him.
Mansour. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were jamming and playing and doing that stuff from age, what, 14, 13, 12-ish. I would say, yeah, I've got a long history of it. It was my DNA.
All right, I want to share. I want to get back on track here. I want to share my
Yes.
screen. So
You start over, and
let's see.
where's my stop share button?
I got it. I think if I share, then you can see my screen now.
And is this where you're going, Mike? I mean, when did
When did we meet?
When did Mike and I meet?
when the Whu Gnu?
Well, before.
There we go.
So here it is. This is
Believe it or not, I remember that graphic.
Yeah.
Did you draw that?
I did not draw this. A lot of people thought I did, but actually, Scott Looper. Actually, I think
that's right. Yeah.
It says RSL at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's Robert Scott Looper.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
I think that's who it is. Yeah.
I remember this though. What do you remember from jazz band? By the way, here's the inside of that.
So I remember. Here's the first time I met Mike. There's always too many drummers in jazz band. You'll see there's only 3 there. I thought we had more than that even. So the drummers always had to sit out or go play vibes or pick another instrument or do something because we were rank with drummers. And so, we had people practicing piano, and we figured, okay, drums, we're going to cover piano because we all play xylophone and whatnot. And so the drums had worked out our ability over the summer, like we're going to have, you guys are going to cover piano on these songs. We're going to get this done. It's going to be awesome. Drummer's going to save the day. And then Mr. Youngblood says, no, we got a piano player. Like the first day, this guy's coming in. His name's Mike. He's pretty good. You're going to like him. And we're all like, dude, he's busting up the party. What's Mike doing here? And so he shows up, and then he plays like one or 2 notes. And we're like, oh, well, okay. He can be in our band. Yeah, because he was way better than any of us who were just hacking it together. So, yeah, I remember Mike showing up at the jazz band and could actually play the instrument. And, most band nerds at the time could sort of play a little piano, but Mike actually took piano lessons, and that's a big difference. So that's how I remember meeting Mike.
I had huge imposter syndrome there because I can read music the way a kindergartner could read Shakespeare. Like eventually they'd get there, but it's pretty painful. But it turns out that's not what jazz band was about. It's about like if somebody they were like, look, here's a chord chart for guitar, right? You know what C major 7 is? I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
if
like,
not,
just comp over that.
yeah, they'll teach us.
Yeah. Oh man, I learned so much from that. I learned so much from Youngblood.
Hey, so there were people who took music theory classes, and then I kind of compare notes with them, and I think we learned more music theory in jazz band
Yeah.
than they learned in music theory.
Yeah, I was very surprised later in life when I could hold my own in a conversation with somebody who had music theory, and I was like, I like hacked my way through high school jazz band. I don't know how I can talk to you about this. This is cool.
I'm gonna, as an outside observer, think that had a lot to do with your instructor.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, it did.
Because
There were two things that would get you not an A in jazz band. One was talking in class and you'd get kicked out, like go sit in the hall. And two was wrapping your microphone cables incorrectly. Those were the two sort of things that you'd get dinged on. But everybody was so motivated to do what our jazz band instructor, Mr. Brian Youngblood, told us to do that, like, we followed instructions. We showed up early. We would come practice after school. And I would not say that the jazz band was good by anybody's standards, but for a bunch of 15-year-old kids, we could play some tunes that were 100 years older than we were. And
we'll get other people to tell this story, but I want you to tell it from your point of view. Do you remember?
Slobber-fest.
Do you... No, that's
okay.
a different one.
Oh, I'm going to tell that story anyway.
Also
okay.
good.
Yes.
That's terrible. We're going to
Maybe
be.
I won't say that again. You could edit that out, right?
No, we'll keep it. But no, once we opened for the Air Force.
The Air Force
jazz band.
Yeah, and of course, all the military branches have multiple bands, and so, I've got like a recording of the Air Force jazz band from DC. This was like the Air Force touring jazz band. I think it was like the B team, but they were still really, really good. And yeah, they came and for whatever reason they played a concert at LD Bell High School in the auditorium. I guess we were just on the circuit, and we got to open for them. And their announcer announced the pride of Lawrence D. Bell High School, the LD Bell Jazz Band, and we're all looking at each other like we're barely the pride of our own moms. But we played our set,
and just in the we made them look so good because we played, and it's high school jazz band. It is what it is. Yeah. And then they come up there and they just light the place on fire. They're so good, and it's just like
their audience was us and maybe our parents. I guess maybe a few people showed up. But yeah. They were great, but they're pros.
They were pros.
They paid to do that, but they were selected, to get into a military band.
So that was 11th grade, because that would have been Mike Dow's 10th grade year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. So I'd already been in jazz band for a semester. I think I did like one semester my sophomore year, and then I played in junior and senior year. But,
so how did that evolve into doing stuff outside of jazz band with Mike and others?
So for one thing, jazz band taught us to improvise, taught us music theory, taught us how to go perform in front of people. Like to this day, I don't really have stage fright. I can speak on stages. It's not a thing to me. And other people just freak out. You're going to talk in front of a room full of people? Yeah, whatever. I've been on stage so many times it didn't matter. Slobber-fest. I said it again. So at the end of the year, Mr. Youngblood, altruistically would always have us go play a nursing home, which was just down the street from the high school, probably about 3 miles down Brown Trail there. And so, we'd take the whole jazz band down there. We'd set up. We'd specifically picked Glenn Miller songs, which would probably be recognizable to people who were in nursing homes in the late 90s. They would have been born in like the teens and the 20s. And we'd play. And again, we always were rank with drummers, so one of the drummers was either doing something else or just sitting a song out. And I remember sitting out one day, and everybody's playing, and a lady asked me to dance.
Yeah,
and what are you going to say, no? No, you don't say no to that. So I got out there and danced, and the whole band, I was entertaining them more than they were entertaining the crowd. So, sorry.
Yeah.
Sidetrack.
Wow.
Not sorry.
We're all whispering.
If I only had
between
cell phones
solos,
back then, the video.
Bo's going to get some old tale right now.
But we also had this guitarist that showed up right about that year. And, none of us really know how to play guitar. I'd hacked around on some. And, there was there's another like flute player, I don't even remember his name, that had played some guitar in the jazz band. But then this guy showed up that wasn't in marching band, who was really good at guitar. He had just moved in from out of state, somewhere on the East Coast, and that was a kid named Jonathan Meiburg. And so, so at that point, there was me, Mike, and Jonathan were all in jazz band, and we hadn't really thought about starting our own band. But there was a saxophone player who played alto sax named Ruben Buell, and he always, everything about Ruben, he had large ambitions. Like he was going to start his own company. He actually went to the Berklee School of Music for a while. He really wanted to go do, so he started a band with he was making plans to tour Japan at one point when we were in high school, and like these were serious plans, talking to agents and stuff like that. And so that band was named Mysterious Union, and I think Mike might even have a tape here, or we always jokingly called it Mysterious Onion. And so, all right, high school kids, he went to the jazz band and the marching band and picked all of the best musicians and said, "Will you come play in my band?" And I was just so itching to play in any group that I said sure. And in hindsight, I didn't really get along with Ruben all that well. This shows up, we were okay friends, but I sure learned a lot from that guy because when we played gigs, we actually had to go like book bars and stuff. And we went to Deep Ellum, Dallas, when I was barely old enough to drive there. Certainly not old enough to walk in the front door. I'd have been carded and kicked out, but if you walk in the stage door, they didn't care. Yeah. So we were out there like 16 years old playing these bars. I opened for a band called Dirty Crabber one time, and they were amazing. And I don't know where that name came from. They all wore union suits, long underwear, and they played a song called Shake Your Banana, which had the whole crowd jumping around, and then they were throwing bananas. They had a grocery sack full of bananas, and people were like, smashing bananas on the carpet. I guess that was probably not fun to clean up later, but it's a bar. It smelled like smoke. Now, and so,
to clarify, I was not in Mysterious Union, but for like one day. I showed up for like one day, and I was like,
to do it.
That's not for me.
Yeah.
But also to Bo's point, like, yeah, I'd never been in a bar really at I don't know what it was, like 16 or 17. Uh-oh, it looks like we lost Bo. Oh no, can you hear us, Bo? Oh, there you go. You're back. But I had never been in a bar, and then at some point, Bo or his sister or somebody said, "Hey, come to Denton," and they have like almost like open mic night, but like you'll get to play some blues on the stage or whatever. And so, Jonathan and Bo and me, we all just schlepped some stuff up. And they didn't think twice. Yeah.
Hey man.
What do you want to do?
I'm rebooting my computer, so everything's powered off of USB ports, and evidently some of them will actually charge the battery better than others. I had the thing plugged in all afternoon and just sitting on idle, and apparently the battery was not charging. So I just swapped some ports around.
Okay.
I'm about to log back in.
Okay. We'll
I'll
wait
see
for you.
If it stays on. Give me just like 30 seconds.
All right. We can wait. Oh. Well, we got a third.
That was quick.
There he is. Yeah. Does say Bo down there. That's good. Hey, and we're back.
Voila.
We'll put in a commercial break there.
Yeah. My battery's fully charged. My laptop just said your power is low, click, turned off, but
that segment will be sponsored by Zima.
all
All right, Mysterious Union.
Mysterious Union didn't last. We played a terrible gig one time where the administration at Bell High School found out that we had our own band and asked if we'd play a party, and we said, pulled me into the office. I got called to the office. I was one of the good kids, and asked, "Would your band play our show?" And I was like, "I don't think you want us." And they're like, "No, we want a student band." All right. And so we showed up and we played, and about 4 songs into it, somebody came up and handed us a note. "The student body doesn't like your music. Please stop." And so we had to stop. but there was like a DJ that was going to back up, and they were using RPA gear. So they made us just like sit there and wait for the party to be over. They wouldn't let us play, but they were using our speakers.
Yeah.
And we kept saying we should just take this stuff and go home. But
Wow.
yeah, it was very kind of dark, Pink Floydy kind of stuff. You couldn't dance to it.
No.
It was well done for what it was, but
Yeah,
I
I remember y'all played the talent show. There was a talent show, and I remember that song was pretty good. And then I was in the band for, like I said, like a day, and that was the only good song. Yeah, I heard the rest of it, and I was like, ooh. But, Ruben Buell had some cool stuff. Like, the old Ensoniq keyboard and, all the stuff that I've seen around. And, I mean, it was fun.
Oh, gear, yeah. And so there were three of us that were in there, myself, Jonathan Meiburg, and Tim Tischler. Maybe was Ken Hood part of it? I don't know. Ken Hood, I don't think he got along with Ruben, so he probably wasn't in that particular band. But we all decided, like, we went and had an intervention with Ruben one time. We said, we're going to leave your band. Sorry about this, but we're not going to be here anymore. Looks like we lost the other mic again.
No,
here he is back. All right. And so, and then we walked out, and Meiburg and I said, Meiburg said to me, let's start a new band. I said, okay. And I said, we're going to need to find a singer. He said, well, what if I tried singing? All right, if you want to do that, I don't care. Let's do that. And so we were going to go meet up with Tim. Well, I guess at that point they talked Ken into joining the band. We're going to meet up with those guys, me, Meiburg, and Ken. And for some odd reason, I couldn't fit in the car, so we drove someplace and met, I think, at Ken's house. And we all hopped out of the car, and they said, we've picked a band name. I hope you like it. It's called Whu Gnu. But we're going to spell it WHUGNU. It's like, okay, if you guys like it, let's do that. And then we got Mike in there pretty much the next day, and we started rehearsing at Ken's house for a while, and then at Mike's house for a while, and then within a summer, you got some recording gear. I guess you guys have talked about ADAT. That's probably been ground that's been covered here.
Alesis.
Alesis, and we started recording. Yeah.
Yep.
Any police invited to any kind of recording sessions?
Yes. So not very often. I remember police being invited to Mike's house in high school for recording sessions. And surprisingly, Mike, you lived in that apartment for years and years down in South Austin, where we recorded in an apartment with upstairs and like side door neighbors.
Yeah.
And we rehearsed and recorded, and we did all sorts of stuff in that apartment. And I never remember one complaint.
Let me show you real quick. That, by the way, is what my my room looked like about the time that we had the band. Right, is a big.
Well, I remember when you bought that board. We already had the band pretty well started. You got that after the Alesis, I believe.
Yeah. We had this and the Alesis.
There's the ADAT right there.
Yeah, right there. And there's like a keyboard mixer, and then I had some keyboards, and that's probably Cubase or whatever.
You didn't tell me that Steven Seagal was in your band.
Well, yeah. This poster found a new home. Thanksgiving. We left it with Chrissy's dad, who is a big Steven Seagal. He was like, Marked for Death. That's the best one. He's not wrong.
There you go. So wait, what was that picture taken in that apartment?
No, this is my bedroom in Bedford.
Okay. So that's the one. That's the stuff I saw. Well, before that.
That's right. Hold on. That's a video. There we go. This is the apartment. So instead of this is like a window that faces out on a courtyard that everybody had, but like right here is a Coltrane poster, and this particular piano, I think you helped me bring it into the apartment, right, Paul?
I did, yeah. All of my piano moving experience has been with you. I did move one other piano. It's a full-size grand.
Yeah.
But somebody else did most of the work. I was just kind of there to catch if it fell.
But I mean that
supervised.
Yeah, that instead of a table, we ate dinner on the piano, and it was Jonathan and I lived in that apartment for 7 years, and I told you the story. Like we were moving out, or I was moving out, and the neighbors were like, "Whoa, where are you going?" And I'm like, "Well, it's time to move on. Thanks for not calling the cops." And they said, "We loved the music. It was great."
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you'd
I
never
guess
heard
I never
that?
heard that
Yeah.
story. No, I never heard that
Yeah.
story.
No, he told me when we first started talking again about that, and I was sitting there going, "That's a totally Austin thing."
Yeah.
It was pretty
I
cool.
I'm amazed. Now, then later I bought a house in North Austin, and we did some recording up there in my house, and we got the cops calling us twice. So that didn't last very long. And yeah, I guess we had some gigs, like, backyard gigs where the police showed up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, hold on. I can
Okay,
I can
yeah.
share that. Hold on, I forgot. This
One of them
is
was in,
Dell can vouch for that.
yeah. Actually, stand by now.
Overall, Mike Dow and Bo Griffin have stayed out of trouble with the law.
This is we often had I say often, twice we had a concert in my parents' backyard. And so that's Jonathan playing the lead guitar there. This is George Irwin stepping in for Jack Worthy. And then Joe Reeves is over there on the bass. And then Bo is back there. And Ken Hood is back there. I can kind of scrub through this. But, yeah, and you'll see. Okay, that was Ken. Yep.
So wait, so what did...
We had drums
Yeah,
and percussion.
Ah, okay. I was
So
sitting
he's
there
playing
how
like-
is Ken Hood? Yeah, he's playing bongos and...
Congas, bongos, congas,
And
occasionally
often,
some keyboard stuff.
we'd have something go wrong with the PA, and I would run down and fix the PA, and then and then Bo and Ken would swap out between kit and percussion, and but you can see there's like a lot of people back there. I like Bo. Tell the story about your mom, talking about when we did.
Yeah, my parents were there, and we were playing. We'd flyered the neighborhood, said, "Hey, we're gonna have a backyard concert. It's not gonna last long.
There you go.
You're
There's
invited."
the crowd.
Yeah, that's Ken back there. Yeah, you're invited. Come on by. Those were Ken's drums at the time, which I bought off of him later.
That's right.
And I still have those cymbals now because he had a really good set of cymbals.
Did Ken have kind of young bloody long hair when he first showed up?
I think he did.
Because I'm not
He
recognizing him in that.
Yeah, he had long hair for a lot of high school, and I don't know why it was so short then. Maybe he cut it for summer. Don't know. I
Okay.
certainly had long hair in there. So
Hey.
no, this would have been later. Ken must have cut it because he had long hair before this.
Yeah.
He certainly did.
So after that.
And so at the end of this gig, well, I mean, we got into probably a dozen songs in, and then the police showed up. But I think they had showed up once during our sound check, and they said, "You
gave
have
us
to
a
turn it
warning.
down." And we said, "We're going to turn it down." Okay, yeah. And then we went and played, and they came back. And when they come back, they're always madder, right? Like, we gave you your warning.
Yeah.
And so
That's
they,
true.
at some
We
point,
turned it down.
said, they were talking to Mike because he was the one closest to the soundboard or whatever. And he said, "We told you to turn it down." And Mike said something like, "We did turn it down." And they stepped in to like grab you or
Yeah, they were
something.
gonna
stepped
take me to jail.
towards you. And yeah, I don't know for what. I mean, you'd think they'd start with a fine, but apparently they were gonna take Mike to jail. My mom tells I wasn't standing there. I was cowering in the back because I didn't want to go to jail. My mom tells a story of kind of standing around, and the cop stepped towards him, and Mike's dad stepped between the officer and Mike and said, "No, he's not going anywhere." And the cop backed down.
Sounds like that. Yeah,
And-
Bedford's
and-
finest.
And the cop backed down, and they said, "You just have to cut it off the music. Come back, everybody's going to jail," or something like that. So party was over. I think people stuck around and had a good time, but yeah, no more loud music.
Yeah. So the video that we're actually looking at was the second time we learned our lesson, right?
Mhm.
And the second time we actually invited the cop, paid a cop to be there, and
Yep.
so hey, there were no noise complaints after that.
Yeah.
But my favorite part about your mom is she ended up writing a letter to I don't know, Fort Worth Star Telegram, somebody.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's just like I love how angry she gets. She was like, "These kids don't drink, they don't do drugs, They're really good kids. You're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
yeah,
and I think probably called us good musicians too at that
yeah,
point. Yeah.
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 So that was
Oh.
the second one that we saw, but I do have I do have video of them coming to threaten to take me away.
Oh
And
yeah. Uh-huh.
actually, our high school, the broadcast journalism teacher was videoing, and he like started pointing it at the cops, and they're
Oh.
like, "No, you
Yeah.
turn that off now." And yeah, but it was pretty cool. After I still have audio recording of that, and even though we stopped playing with the amplifiers and everything, I ended up moving a microphone because we did just an acoustic set after that. Like Jonathan came
Oh,
back
okay,
with a
yeah.
guitar and we like sang some songs or
Oh,
something.
it
Like
probably
just
brought the bongos around
bongos
and
down,
did some
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You you
I kind of
you,
remember.
you turned it down the other way.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, we followed instructions
Yeah.
There you go.
and stayed out of the Bedford City Jail that day. So
At
There
least
you
I
go.
did.
Which probably had plenty of room in it.
Yeah.
So previously Mike had showed me the Who Gnu Spotify. So are you on both of those albums up there?
Yeah, he's on both.
oh yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Okay.
I played most of the drums, a little bit of the bass guitar on some of those songs.
Very cool.
Yeah,
And so-
and then I brought one of the album covers of one of those songs. Let's see. Here, I'm gonna share. Once
You
I
may have
find
to allow
share
him again.
screen.
oh, did I?
Got it.
Got it.
All right. So yeah, this was our second released album, which we called Walking Spanish, because the name Who Knew, at some point we kind of thought was maybe holding us back a little bit, and I don't know that was what was holding us back. I think the fact that we all started getting like regular jobs and nobody really wanted to leave Austin, and there's no way we could coordinate travel schedules between people that were buying houses and working jobs, so I couldn't tour or anything. But I really enjoy this photo. All right, so Tony Rogers this was the last instance of the band when we were really gigging and winning competitions and making a little bit of money even around Austin. So Tony Rogers played cello. I was on drums. Jonathan Meiburg played typically acoustic guitar and sang. This is Mike, who played keyboards, did a little bit of backup vocals. Lee Shields, who played bass guitar, and Jack Worthy, who played electric guitar and mandolin, did a little bit of singing too. And in that instance, we were gigging around Austin from '99 to about 2003, 2002, somewhere in there.
Sounds right.
Recorded like another album, which we put out on Spotify, and a third that's essentially done. We should. Mike and I were talking about this. We need to just get it out there, release it into the world, because I think the one that we haven't released has the best stuff on it. And I've now got 2 decades of listening to it in the car, and I'm still going to say the stuff that's not out in the world is the best.
I agree.
But yeah, at this point we were playing regular gigs around Austin. We never played an official South by Southwest showcase, but we played a ton of unofficial South by Southwest when it was going on, and we were playing gigs and we were playing backyard parties and stuff like that. Getting paid to do it. We paid the other college in town, St. Edward's. We played their theater in front of hundreds of people a few times, and they paid pretty well when we did that.
Let's I'm going to share my screen again.
Yep.
I want to show off, and you talk about 40 Acres Fest and how we
Actually, I'm going to talk about 2 other gigs we played right before this. Before Jonathan moved to town, he went to the University of the South in Swanee, Tennessee, about an hour and 10 minutes south of Nashville. And he worked with us, got us 2 gigs out there where we played on their campus that were hosted by a radio station. So they paid pretty well. The first time was just like a college party. And I think we were the headliners and we had people open for us. And we played in a frat house and we drove all the way out. But, it was Mike, you might have still been in high school, or were you early college? I think maybe college.
Yeah,
you were. Yeah, you were in college because we had been working together already at UT Arlington. And so we drove Meiburg's parents' van out, pulled a trailer full of gear, but then your parents didn't want us to go by ourselves, so they followed us.
Mom followed me.
Yeah, and then I guess your girlfriend at the time followed along, and then
Mhm.
we needed one more car, so we borrowed Jack's brother's Jeep. Yeah,
This-
that Jeep Cherokee, which that thing was awesome, by the way. Like
Yeah.
to this point, yeah, you don't need to get into too many details about the Jeep if you don't want to. But there.
Wait, I feel like I'm missing a good story.
Yeah, there's a story that's probably. But that Jeep was like I've been looking at buying a '97 two-door Jeep Cherokee because of that thing was so awesome. And yeah, we drove all the way out there, and it was like a 14-hour drive from the DFW area out to Nashville and then south. And then we got there pre-cell phone and like had to just like sit for 2 hours because Meiburg was just out running errands. And eventually we got there and, I guess we stayed overnight and then played a gig and then drove back or something. It was a long weekend, but it was a pretty fun road trip. And then a year later, we got invited to come back and do it, or a year, maybe just a few months later, got invited to come back and we opened for the Reverend Horton Heat.
Mhm.
And that time everybody believed that we could just do this on our own. So we brought my dad's van, or maybe it was Jonathan's parents' van again, and pulled out of the trailer. And it was just you, me, and Joe.
Yeah.
The three of us just drove all the way out there and back.
Mhm.
And we drove out. I think we got a little bit of sleep the night before, played the gig, hooked up the trailer, and just took off after the gig.
Yeah.
I mean, well, okay. So first off, we got there for sound check, and
We sound nothing like Reverend Horton Heat, by the way.
No, we don't. Not at all. And so this is a big radio event. There were like 3 or 4 bands playing, and I think we might have been a couple before Reverend Horton came out. But it doesn't matter. Maybe it was a Texas showcase or something, because I think he's from Texas too.
Yeah, I think they're from Dallas.
Yeah.
They're going, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah, and they had all set up and sound checked, and then we had to find the places in the stage where their gear wasn't. They would not move anything.
Yeah,
They wouldn't let
I
us touch
remember that.
anything. They threw a tarp over the drums, over their amps, whatever.
Yeah.
They said, this is a space you have. So like we got like one guy's way over here and one guy's way over here, and we couldn't see each other. We couldn't hear each other, but we played a hell of a gig. We did really well, but we were mad the whole time. We're like, man, they wouldn't even let us slide stuff out of the way. We could not set up the way we wanted. And so after we played, we went, had to clean up all our stuff, get it off stage. And then there was a backstage area, and there was like food that was designated for Reverend Horton Heat and his band. And we're like, those guys were jerks. And we just absolutely just wrecked whatever. Like, we ate everything. There was nothing left.
Yeah.
I don't
Nice.
know if they had already had their take at it or if there was just no food left, because we helped ourselves to everything that was sitting out there.
And then you left.
Yeah, and then we went out and watched the show
Yeah,
because
okay.
that guy was awesome. I was really impressed with it. And then, towards the end of it, we started packing everything up in the trailer, hooked that thing up and took off. And what I remember is it was really cold. It was just freezing cold. And we couldn't get the trailer lights hooked up right because like the wires had fallen out of the connector. And so I thought I had it all up while you were starting to drive. And we got out into the road. We got pulled over by the police. And the cop said, yeah, your trailer lights aren't working. And if you get out on the highway, they'll give you a real ticket for that. So this is just a warning. You should probably fix that. So we pulled off, and it's just a freezing cold. Finally, it was Mike that figured it out. We had Joe up there pressing things, and he was plugging stuff in. And eventually we got it working, and then we got out of there. And we drove, probably got to almost Memphis. And the sun was coming up, and we just could not keep our eyes open. And we just like pulled over on the side of the road somewhere, literally just in the shoulder, and just sort of crashed for maybe 2 hours, and then woke back up and drove the rest of the way home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was I'm sure bands do that all the time. That's the way they live nowadays. But or gigging bands. But man, that was a rough gig, but it was fun.
That one speaking of driving, so that'll bring us to the next gig. Well, so there was a competition down at UT and Jester Fest. I think that's what we ended up.
I think that's
what
we decided it was. Yeah.
It was a battle of the bands, and we won. We actually tied with another band called Cruiserweight. I can't believe I remembered that.
Cruiserweight, and they stuck around and did a lot of gigs around Austin too. Yeah.
Yeah, and but we for some reason got to the prize was like 20 hours at Ben Blank Studio. And,
Ben Blank, yeah. That was
and then you got to, what else did you get to do? You got to play 40 Acre Fest, which was a big UT thing. And they had lots of real bands there, and then we got to open. So we're opening, but our
It's
cellist,
an all-day festival, so we started early in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, our cellist, he had some other gig that he had to play like the night before in Nacogdoches.
Wow.
And we were like, "We'll just drive to us." It's a 4-hour drive. It's just drive to us. And he was like, "I can't do it," or he didn't have a car. Or
I think he didn't have a car. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I
Mike
said,
we'll
come get you. So we drove 4 hours there, picked him up in like the middle of the night.
Oh yeah. We got there at like midnight.
And then drove 4 hours back.
4 hours back. Yeah.
Then
I remember driving your car through the middle of the East Texas forest. There's nothing out there, and something ran across the road right at the edge of our headlights. And I was probably so sleep deprived I was hallucinating, but I swore it was some sort of an alien creature. Chupacabra. That's exactly what I was going to say. It was chupacabra. It was probably a pig, but I yelled at Mike, "That was a chupacabra! I know it was!" And Mike's like waking up. What are you talking about? And then later I crashed and he slept. He drove for a while, and so we drove all night there. Picked up Tony. The gig was at like 10 in the morning or something. So I think maybe I got an hour of sleep or something because we got back at like 8. Took a quick shower. Went there to set up. And there was a whole day's worth of like venue going on. There was and I think Spoon was one of the bands. I don't know, there were some larger name bands at the end of the day, and we were literally the opening act.
This was our act. That was 40 Acres Fest.
That's a real stage. Like there's real gear,
real monitors and everything.
So real sound people. And so right after we went on was supposed to be there was a TV show called Party of Five. Yeah. And like I was watching I think Thanksgiving Day 2-3 days ago. One of the female actresses from Party of Five was being interviewed like before the Macy's Day Parade or something, and talking about some new program and reminiscing about how much fun she had on that TV show with famed actor Scott Wolf. Well, Scott Wolf was doing some kind of a speaking tour. I don't know if it was court ordered or if he was actually out. Like he was talking on college campuses about something. It seemed like it was don't do drugs kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to go on right after us. And so we were going to play. And so our friends were there. But then as we're tuning up and kind of getting a little sound check, just hordes of young female college students are just showing up because he's on TV. And this is Scott Wolf. And this place is just filling up. And we're looking at each other thinking, this is the best gig ever. This is going to be amazing. We're going to have these new fans. We're going to be famous and they're all female. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this sort of crowd of people, some security people or whatever, kind of walk towards the stage, push us out of the way. And
just before we're supposed to go on.
Literally 5 minutes before we start, we were standing there with our guitars on. I was at the drums or whatever, so I just kind of stood up and stood over by Lee, the bass player, like, what's going on? And Scott Wolf, the actor, walks up to the microphone, the microphone that Jonathan was about to sing on, and says, "Hey everybody, thanks for coming out. I've got to postpone my speech till later this afternoon. I want all of you to go back home and get a friend and bring him back." And then he walks off the stage. And the place just evaporated. Like there was nobody left. I think I counted 16 people, 14 of whom knew us and came just to see us. To play our gig.
The way I remember it,
physically restrained Lee when Scott
what a dick
walked past. He was about to go just kick that guy's ass.
I thought we were off stage when he walked past us, and then made the announcement to tell everybody to go home, and then he walked past us. We were off stage again.
I think we were off stage,
and I feel like Lee was lunging towards him. I mean, we almost kicked Scott Wolf's ass.
Yes.
We were like,
yes.
"You motherfucker, why did you just tell everybody to go home? You know we're a band and we're about to go on, right?"
Yeah.
Well, get your own fans.
Yeah. That was our 40 Acres Fest. We played a great gig. We nailed it. Yeah. But to a very small crowd that day. And then Mike had to drive Tony all the way back to Nacogdoches to meet back up because I think he was playing with the Symphony again that Saturday night.
That's right.
And then catching a like carpooling back.
Yeah.
So, and
Wow.
I didn't even go with you.
No,
Like, so you had no sleep that night before, and then you drove another 8 hours
yeah, it's
just
true.
to get him back. Yeah. So
To be young
absolute
and
trooper.
have energy.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
good on you.
Yeah.
So when you started recording with Whu Gnu,
Yeah.
was it you, Mike, that were kind of the pro audio guy, or did you talked about winning some session hours somewhere? What was your first kind of recording experience with that band?
Do you remember, Bo? I'll let you talk.
So actually, I recorded an album with Mysterious Union before I ever recorded with Whu Gnu. And our recording engineer was a guy you may remember named Brian Youngblood. So we paid him in like pizza and Mountain Dew to record us.
Currency.
Because he had a 4-track. I think he just had a 4-track, which I bought off of him later, actually. But he was really good at it. He had a board, and so we would lay down some tracks, and then he'd mix them all down to 1 track, and then we'd lay down a couple more tracks, so he'd mix them down to 2 tracks. We lay down a couple of tracks, and we'd get about 10 tracks out of it. Yeah, and it worked pretty well, and so I
like
learned,
a Tascam 4-track, or
it was a Tascam 4-track recorded on cassette tape, but it recorded all 4 tracks, so you don't flip the tape, right? There's only
and it was
one
real
side.
fast. So if you put it in the regular tape recorder, it was
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. So it got higher fidelity by moving fast. Yeah, that's true. I bought that off of him later, and he had
Nice.
a board, like an 8-channel board or whatever, and we set it all up, and we recorded in an afternoon, like, or a weekend or something, maybe 2 Saturdays, out at a friend's house in Irving. And so I learned a ton of.
Did he mic'd up your kit?
Yeah. Mike
Okay.
had my pawn shop purchased CB700 drum kit at the time.
Hey,
And then he
man.
was giving
Don't
me
knock everybody's first kit. We all had that pawn shop. I had
Yeah.
I actually still have it. The Pearl Export 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
Well, and I think that kit actually did it not end up. I think it ended up on our first album, right?
I think I used a little bit of it, but then Ken had a better drum set than I
Oh,
did. So we
that's
used
right. It was
Ken's.
Ken's kit.
And
That's
then in
right.
the middle of all that, I just bought it from Ken because he
Mhm.
needed the money.
So
Yeah.
so what was the place in Irving? Was that just a better space?
It was a guy's house. It was a friend of Ruben's that they just were good childhood friends, and
Okay.
they had a good, like a big sort of cavernous half basement thing that had wood floors and sounded great. And so we set it there and recorded.
But
Was
that was
just
Mysterious
like a weekend
Union.
thing? How long did
That was Mysterious Union. We did that over a weekend, but those were mostly original songs plus some Pink Floyd covers that we recorded. We did that, yeah, and got Youngblood to come out, and he was an absolute trooper, and he was giving me tips on like how to play drums on mic, and you got to leave your beater off the bass drum ahead so that you get a little more reverberation, don't bury it in, and so he was giving me the absolute minutiae of how you played the drums as a
Yeah.
session guy, and I mean I still follow
That's
those
great.
rules when I play live today.
Well, yeah, and I mean he would do that stuff in jazz band too, and that was stuff I paid attention to. He would say, "Well, if if you're recording drums, do this, and this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well."
He said, "I know you got the chops to do it, but that's not going to come out on tape. Simplify your fills, play it easier, and they'll sound perfect. And yeah, your audience isn't going to know the difference. So take a few notes out and just absolutely be on tempo every time."
Mhm.
Yeah. So, or have a click in your ear, but if you do, make sure you follow it. So
Yeah, I will say so. When we recorded,
That's so hard.
it is. Yeah.
I had my sequencer, which would create the click, and then it would chase the ADATs. Or at the first time we just had one ADAT, so it was.
Yeah.
But 8 tracks of digital, you could do a lot with that.
And so, yeah, at that point, we had joined Mike's band, Meiburg. I think Tim had already gotten out. He didn't stick around very long after naming us our band. Kim didn't like recording very much. I think we had gotten Jack to show up a little bit. Bass was Joe, although I think I overdubbed a lot of his tracks. He was pretty good. Or Mike overdubbed a bunch of stuff, or Meiburg. But, we had some of his recording. And so I think I had just graduated high school, so I was 18. You were probably going into your senior year, but that summer, you got that ADAT, and you got the the 16 channel board, 32 channel board, the
24, yeah.
24. Okay. And we set up in your parents' house and we started recording songs. And so, what, you were 17, Meiburg was probably 16,
Mm-hmm.
I was 18, and we recorded some pretty damn good stuff.
Yeah, we did.
Just figuring it out.
Yep.
And we just did it until it sounded good.
And we would, and so as not to waste any tracks on our eight tracks of ADAT, we would record to mini disc.
Yep.
And then whenever we were done with a song or whatever, we'd run to people's houses with the mini disc player and we'd plug it into their stereo and be like, listen to this. And Youngblood,
Or I'd get you to copy it over to a tape,
Mm-hmm.
cassette tape, and I'd take it to people's houses. Hey, what do you think of this? And people would just be amazed that we were doing as teenagers.
but even Youngblood was cool about us, like going to his house and like, hey, listen, what do you think? You know, it was cool.
Yeah. I was at his house more times than a student should be at their teacher's house. Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Our first album, we did a lot of that.
Yeah.
It sounds
and so-
like you discovered how the recording process itself could be a extra part of the creative process and do some cool stuff. But I guess I'm assuming you bought the gear, Mike. You were learning as you were doing.
Right. It was terrible because I'd never done it before, and we would do things like we would plug everything into the room with the ADAT with the mixer, and then we would be like, oh, the ADATs make noise. Like they spin up like a VHS machine. And it's like, oh, well, this needs to be in another room.
Yeah.
Well, and then we, and then it's like, well, I gotta go buy a
cables.
snake.
Yeah.
A 16-channel snake to put in this room, and then we'll go in the other room, and we'll have like a control
Explain to
room.
Mom what the cables down the hall are and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were troopers about it too, because we were running cables down the hall and taking over the dining room and Mike's bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And of course, making noise.
Yeah, and Mom and Dad had a really big house, and so taking over the front room, which was used for not much anything except for when guests came. We didn't have them come that often, and so there was pretty much a permanent drum set set up in there, and a drum, or just a whole band could just play in there.
Yeah.
For a long time, and then at some point,
that lasted years because Meiburg went off to college, and we'd come back like spring breaks and summers, and we'd just like show up, and he'd have some new material, or he and Mike would stay up all night and write a new song, and then we'd just go record it and we'd work it out.
At some point, I talked him into letting me move all that stuff out to the guest house, which kind of had a control room and then a big live room, and so that was kind of nice, but. That way after that, when we moved to Austin, we won that Ben Blank time in the studio. We realized by then we had recorded so much that it was like, oh, well, we just need this space not to finish or polish anything, but just to lay down basic tracks. So they had a really big live room, and we're like, let's use their really nice mics for the drums.
Yep.
And just lay down, everybody in
we
ISO
just
booths.
basically went and played our set. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then
recorded everything.
Then we said, we don't want to do ISO. We don't want to do vocals here. We don't want to do the overdubs here. Mm-hmm. We can do that in our closet at home. We just need the basics. And so I think they were hoping that we would lay down and then pay them for some more to be able to finish it there. And we're like, why?
Nah. We're good.
We won the 10 hours. We'll just use the 10 hours.
We used exactly the 10 hours. And we had our timer going, and we did some stuff. It's all right. Thanks, guys. We're out.
Yeah.
Never went back. Never went back to that place again.
And this was Whu Gnu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was Whu Gnu. Yeah.
And that Ben Blank is all on the second album. So the Walking Spanish album. A lot of that is from the Ben Blank stuff, but some of that is from Bo's house. He bought a house during all this, and we recorded some stuff then. That made
so the Nick Without Teeth, was that all recorded at?
That was all recorded in Mike's
parents' house. Yeah,
Mike's parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to add one thing to it. Mike, as you probably learned, doesn't have much of a filter. He's going to tell you exactly what you think. So Mike made me a better
we keep
drummer.
him around.
Mike made me a better drummer by saying, that sucked. Go do it better. And I did. And I'd be like, no, that was good enough. He's like, no, you got a better one in you. Just go do it again. And just kept, and I got to where at the end of it, I could play a song exactly the same every time, with no changes. And I think that made us a little better live too. We could improvise when we called for it, but if we didn't need to, we played the song, and it was the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much of a Nazi I had really become on the other side of with the record button and stuff. But you do sort of get power trippy. But also, I mean, that's kind of your job. Is you're like, oh, I need to make sure that the minutia, like, I need to know that that note needs to be in tune. You know, we're not here for, you know, capturing this live and all the little weird nuances. Like, you're there to make perfection. You're there to make something good that's almost unattainable. And so you build on, like, okay, that was a good line. Let's do the next one, you know, let's do the next one until we get it right.
I also see that part of the live band recording process is, you know what? Oh, here's how it's going to be kind of permanently now. So you need to figure it out and stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, Mike, I think maybe part of your wanting to have the same thing come out of every part every time it was recorded comes from dealing with sequencers,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
where you know, I programmed this and it sounds the same every time, and I deal with a live musician. You're like, whoa, that you didn't play that last time, or you didn't play what you did last time, and you know, bring it back.
Well,
So
I'm going to say, I don't know that Mike was pushing me to do it the same way every time. I just would realize that I could get to the end of a take and I had nailed it so well that if I did it twice, it was the same take.
I mean, you were
Yeah.
solidifying the part in your own mind.
Yeah.
You're like
yeah.
going, yeah.
I will
That's pretty
say,
cool.
I will say also though that you become a producer as well as an engineer, and we didn't know the difference between those two things when we were recording our first album. But you know, Bo would do something, he would do a fill or something, and we were like, "That's cool, that belongs there." You know,
Do that
do
again.
that thing at that part.
And then I have to go practice it until
Mhm.
I could do it without any possibility of making a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
greatness.
and speaking of, you know, Bo is an awesome drummer, and like he doesn't what he thought of whenever Brian told
Who,
him,
me?
Brian Youngblood told him, you know, don't do a lot of weird fills or whatever because the end user, your listener will never hear the difference.
Yeah.
There was this one time we played live on the radio here in Austin.
Yeah.
And we did this song called it was Summer in January.
Yep.
And at the very end of this song, like, he does this fill that I don't think you could cram any more drum notes into. It just is just this all the way around the drum set, right? And it you know, because he's got a pretty good groove going on, but like at the end of that song, it's crazy. Like, and the fact that he pulled it off and he did it live, it just, like, at that point I was like, okay, you're good. You're really good now.
I actually remember that day, and
Yeah.
I felt I flubbed it, but
No, it's
the
great.
audience didn't know the difference.
It was so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I have a recording of that, and it's
Well, I was going to
It's
say, where's the
impressive.
recording of that?
I'll play it for you. That's
Man,
good.
Mike recorded
Tack it
everything.
on.
When we played gigs, he recorded live, and
Mhm.
so we'd go back and listen to ourselves. Sometimes we'd be able to use stuff that was live recordings. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was,
some of our rehearsals I recorded, and we were rehearsing for our last gig, and we like rehearsed every day for 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and I started recording those at the very end, and those are some of the best recordings we've ever had because we just rehearsed, you know, for
Yeah.
14 days, and they're so good and they're so tight, and I have some of those too, and they'll blow you away. They're really good.
Yeah, there was video of that last gig. We opened for a guy named Shane Bartell, I think,
Oh yeah,
down on
Shane
6th Street.
Bartell.
And we, I mean, we nailed that set. We
Yeah,
were
we did.
tight. Yeah.
I think you two have some work to do talking about all the unreleased material and all the recordings that you have.
Yeah, we need to get on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, we were talking earlier today. We need to release the rest of it because we got at least 8 good songs, like really great songs, that I think are ready to go right now. Probably have been for a decade, and we just never got around to putting them out in the. We use CD Baby, but I'm sure there's plenty of other places where you can release music now.
I'm going to encourage you to do any of them. So I want to hear it. So so what happened? What was the end of Whu Gnu? Was it people got lives and married and kids and jobs, or
pretty much?
Was there a big fist fight?
There were 6 people in Whu Gnu. I bet there's 6 different stories to that. I'm going to say part of it was my fault. I got a job. My degree's in engineering. I got a job, and I got sent on a business trip. And I had the ability to do some scheduling, and I just forgot if we had a gig that week. It's like a month out, and I told my boss and everything, I'm going to be up in Dallas or whatever. And then somebody was like, oh, crap, guys, we have to cancel a gig. And that was the first time I can ever remember that we canceled a gig. We may have had to find somebody to sit in or whatever, but like I forced the band to cancel a gig. And we never played again after that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So,
I didn't know it was your fault.
Maybe we played one more gig. There was like a rooftop bar above Katz's Deli over there. We might have played one more time after that. But I think we had a series of gigs that were all going to be at that same bar.
Yeah.
We played one, had to skip one, and maybe came back and played one more.
I think there was kind of
but there was a lot more to
a perfect storm. Yeah, because that particular gig on the rooftop, that's when Jonathan met Ockerville River.
Yeah.
And then he was like, that was the direction he wanted to go in. And, so he kind of went that direction.
They went and started their own band. We even helped them record some stuff. Like I think we recorded some Shearwater tracks for those guys.
Yeah, we did. And, maybe even, I think I remember helping them with some Ockerville River stuff. Yeah, I think there's like maybe Ella's the First Rider. I think that's one of the songs.
Yeah, I think that was going to be a Whu Gnu song. So I helped record that one too. And Jonathan wanted it to be a Whu Gnu song, and we didn't. Like the rest of us just didn't like the song. I assume you didn't like it. Wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, we'll take it and we'll make it a Shearwater song. And this is my side project. So like, okay, we'll help you record your Shearwater song. Great. And I think it became some of their demos, and they moved on. And then he got married, and then his wife was in the band with him. And and I remember Jack calling me out of the blue one day and said, hey, so we haven't been getting a lot of gigs lately. Jonathan was mostly booking most of our stuff. I think it's time we just invite him to pursue whatever opportunities. Let's see what we can do without him. Yeah. And so we rehearsed a bunch without him, but we never really got any real gigs without Jonathan. So.
Yeah. And that's right. No, I feel like we did one, I don't know. We rehearsed
some, we recorded some.
Yeah.
And then we went and started doing like bluegrassy church stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what Jack wanted to do, which I thought was a blast. But
that was fun.
It's fun, but it's not our stuff.
It's not rock. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so then that all kind of closed.
Yeah.
And I see from behind you with the piano and the controller and 5, 6 guitars and the Weird Al accordion and snare
and that's
drum.
actually just a practice pad. That's not even a snare drum.
You totally got out of the music business in your life.
I played a live gig this morning. So
there you
go. Church band, and I will recommend to anybody who wants to get better chops, find a church that has low standards. There's some that like you got to try out to play in their band. Pick whatever instrument you are. Get them to let you play in the band, and every week you are on the hook to play 3, 4, 5 songs, whatever their set list is. I played 3 songs this morning. One of them I had played before, but it had been probably 15 years. And I played bass guitar in the band. In rehearsals, we didn't have rehearsal this week because it was Thanksgiving week. So we rehearsed, and then we had the church service. And in rehearsals, I never got it right once. But when we played it in front of people, I nailed it. And I wrote the notes I needed to, and I got my scales down, and then we played the song, and I didn't miss a note. So, and I think that's what playing with other people does that to you. And I think the easiest entry point to do this with the least amount of judgment is in, like I said, church band, low standards.
100%.
Yeah,
So
and there is still that accountability. Like, I need to do this. People are counting on me. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And you know, there's a self drive to. I'm going to be performing in front of people. I don't want to be an idiot. So
Yeah. I don't want to be the one that drags the band down. So
there you go.
also, I mean, Bo and I, just besides beyond the bands that we recorded, our stuff and Jonathan's stuff, we've recorded for other people too. Like, they would come to my apartment. There's a guy named Craig Kotfas that we helped him record his whole album. Yeah, and then Lindsay Fuller. I think we talked about her. I had brought her up before, and you found like a list of her songs. And recently, I actually refound her CD and was able to listen to it again. I still like it today.
Yeah.
I think the production value is pretty good, and her songwriting's strong and all that stuff. But
you may have forgotten this, but you recorded some country guy when you were in high school. He
Oh,
played
yeah.
this lap steel guitar.
Jeff Evans,
And he had that was the guy, yeah.
Cookie Girl.
So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's right. Cookie Girl, yeah.
Cookie Girl, you can be my world.
Yeah,
Why don't you
recorded that
share
guy,
your
too.
sugar with me? That was the lyric.
Yeah, okay. I'd forgotten that, but then I still play. So I work for Dell. I'm an engineer, and through 2009 to 2019, until pre-COVID, we had here in Round Rock the server engineering team would have a battle of the bands, and out of just a bunch of computer engineers, we'd put 9 or 10 bands on a stage. We'd book out a bar or something for a whole day, midday, let everybody go. It's buy a bunch of food, you can show up, and then everybody gets a 30-minute set. And I would play in like 2 or 3 or 4 maybe of those bands. And I would always play drums in the band that I cared about. And I'd play bass guitar in like the band that had all the managers in it, just because I could suck up to them. And I might play drums in somebody else's band. I might play mandolin in somebody else's band. So and it was one of those things where you spend months because nobody has time to really rehearse. Spend months with little rehearsals, and then you go play a show, and then you forget about it. But then I played in just kind of a cover rock band for several of those years with another guy from Dell, and I still do church bands and stuff. I think as of right now, probably since about 2004, I think I am a fully professional drummer. I don't think I've played a free gig. I've made dozens of dollars, but I've always been paid for even if it was just paying on Dell's dime, like playing on Dell's dime, playing on the clock. I played those gigs. And there was money changing hands. So
now, didn't you tell me
nice.
though that you actually at some point somebody would send you stuff, and then you would have microphones at your house, and you would track your drums there and send it back?
So this was COVID. Again, this is church band stuff. So our church director is also he's a high school band teacher at one of the private schools here in Austin. And so he does a lot of recording and stuff. So when COVID hit and people were going to have to stay home, we had to figure out what to do. So I ran and bought the last I could find in town, Presonus 2-channel USB microphone preamp. And it came with Studio One, software with it. And so I plugged it all in. And for 2020 and most of 2021, the music director would pick some songs, and I'd usually start, and I'd just lay down a scratch guitar track. Because he'd give me whatever it was, maybe play the melody out on a keyboard a little bit, and then I'd record bass guitar, and I might record a little bit of a scratch drum track, and then I'd invite the other drummer to come over, and he would overdub drums, and I'd videotape him doing it. And sometimes I would go back and re-record his drum parts, but for the most part. And then I'd just send single tracks of here's some guitar bass drums, you do with it what, and then he'd go and put stuff over it, and then we get people just sing on their cell phones, and then he'd put it all together, and each week they'd have a new song and they'd use the cell phone video of all the singers and put together something, and a lot of those videos we reused over and over again. And so I got a lot better at recording on the mic end of the recording. I had to go teach myself how to do all that stuff because it needed to get done.
Yep.
Very cool.
So,
well, and is that still an option today? Somebody wants you to lay down some drum tracks. You got all that know-how now.
Yeah, I went and actually bought a 16-channel preamp, a Tascam, so I can now record the entire drum kit. I've recorded a couple of original things just because I was messing around with it. Everything that I write sounds like a cheesy television theme song.
Well,
But
what's the joke? What's the last thing a drummer says in the band?
oh, the last thing a drummer ever says in the band is, "Hey guys, let's play one of my songs." Yeah. So yeah, but they're skills that I picked up because of all these guys, and then when they came necessary, I could put them in the action. So yeah, and it's still fun to do. I still want to keep doing it.
Yeah, it's really fun. I miss having all the guys over at my house and working towards a goal of just making great music.
Yeah, we should do it again sometime.
100%.
Although, like finding free time these times. Now you got kids and
Yeah.
teenage kids and work requirements. It's hard to find time to do that. Like we're talking about bringing this Battle of the Bands back at Dell, and I don't even know that I could participate, even though it's for work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, if we're just
Didn't mean
sharing
to.
old photos, let me share this one. So this guy that sort of got us into this whole recording phase wound up going and getting a job as the head marching band director at TCU.
Brian Youngblood.
Yeah, there he is.
This was just a couple of weeks after I got married, and just a couple of weeks after Brian's first kid was born. This was like my wife was a TCU alum. She was also a Belgrade, Sarah Field at the time, Sarah Griffin now. We went back to like alumni night, and she marched with the band and everything. And so we went over and talked to Brian and got a photo taken. And yeah, there's Mr. Youngblood again. And this would have been 23 years ago.
Was he like, "Hey, Bo, what's going on?"
Exactly. And he knew me, he knew my wife. And we talked about, people that were in the high school band, because he's got a whole new crew of high school kids every year. And he knew everybody. So
Wow. Okay.
he still works with a lot of the band directors in the area. So he writes a lot of drill and music for marching bands. And so our friend Matt Olstead works with him all the time because he's a marching band, teacher up in the Fort Worth area. And so, yeah, I was talking to him just a couple of days ago. Hey, Mike and Mike want to talk to Youngblood, and he said, yeah, just tell me when. I'll get him in touch with you. So we can make that happen.
Fantastic. Yeah,
And-
I've got. Depending on his memory, I've got some good stories to prompt him with.
And I admit, I would not still be playing bass guitar in the church band this morning if it weren't for that guy.
Yeah.
So he absolutely.
Same. I don't think I would have gotten anywhere near what I've gotten out of recording and audio and all that stuff without him. He definitely inspired me to want to do what I do.
He was such a great teacher where instead of the mentality of move, let me show you how it's done, it was really teaching you how it's done, even though you knew that he could rock you out of the building. And he actually, in my experience, shied away. We would always be like, rock out on the drum set. Come on, do it. And he was like, nah, not going to do that. And I think I can count on one, maybe twice that I ever saw him let loose for a little bit.
But man, when he did, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So we were like, okay, that's neat.
But then when it's your turn to play, you didn't want to let him down. So you're going to go practice and
that's right.
Try, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's one reason I did the pit was, I mean, you got to spend a lot of time with him, and I didn't have to get up at 5 a.m. and do all the marching stuff. But we did have to lug a bunch of heavy crap around all the time. So.
Yes, you did. You guys got to haul.
But we got to ride in the U-Haul to the football games instead of the bus.
Oh, really?
Youngblood drove the rider truck, I guess it was, and we rode up front with him.
Cool.
And that was pretty new. That was pretty cool because he'd get in and pop in a cassette of Rush or whatever, and be like, and then he would begin to give you the history of what you were listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
That was the other thing is he was full of music history that we actually gave a damn about, right?
And
like
if you
rock
fed him
history,
Oreos and Mountain Dew, it worked.
He would. Yeah, he would keep going.
That's right.
And Mike and I have had this conversation offline before. When we go watch our kids, because I've got a high school age kid too, so I've gone and seen the Round Rock High School drumline and the Westwood High School drumline. They're just not as good as we were. And I don't think that's a memory thing. I don't think it's I'm remembering myself as being greater than they were. I've gone back and watched videos, and like he made a tight drum line and a tight marching band, and like we practiced up to that standard, and we were really good.
Well, even and Nimix and I have talked about this too. The cadences. Nimix found some VHS of a pep rally at Bell, and it's just like you hear the cadences from all these other high schools, and then you hear the one that we grew up with, and you're like, they're
Tylenol.
awesome.
Yeah,
What,
they're
what
They're
was it?
really good. They groove. Like
457 or he explained to us the names one
four-
day. He was like, I had a headache and
437.
I wrote it 437. Why?
he-
Because I wrote it
he
at
was writing
4:37
it
in the
out.
morning.
and he said he put the last note on the page. You looked up at the clock, and it was 4:37 a.m. So he just wrote that down and went to sleep. The next morning, he's like, "Oh, well, that's time."
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Tylenol.
I don't know. I had a headache,
Dun,
so
dun,
I was like,
dun.
yeah, it was good stuff, and we marched
Still
those
is.
cadences too. We would practice them until we had them, and then once we had the handwork down, it's like, all right, now we're going to learn feet to go with it. You're never going to play these without marching because that's the skill you need. So we didn't practice.
That was our mini camp
those.
in May for just
Yeah.
the percussion. You
We just-
got to air condition and learn the
Yeah.
crap, and then you got to go stand under the trees in the heat and
do
learn your
marching.
marching.
Yeah.
But once, I mean, we did that, we drilled it in, and then
Mhm.
anywhere we went, he'd just like drumline over here. He'd be like Tylenol,
Go.
and then we just did it, and people were
Yeah. And they
Wow.
were watching like,
These
why are they
dancing
marching?
monkeys came out
What
of
are they
nowhere.
doing?
This is crazy,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
We could
and then
march
they'd
in any size space.
Yeah.
We could
Yeah.
do it.
Hotel ballroom. I don't know. Did you ever do one of those where we went to? So maybe it was battery only. I feel sad if you missed out on those. So they would do homecoming.
We did-
Right? Where
we did the-
legit
Oh,
legit
oh, yeah,
homecoming events where people who had graduated the 10 years ago would come back and they go to the homecoming game. Well, whatever that weekend was, they'd be having a big party at one of the hotels north of the airport, right? And so we'd go practice our cadences once in the Bell parking lot, pile up into people's cars. I probably can't do that ever at high schools today,
right.
and drive up to the Hilton. And we just unload the cars, get in the parking lot, and we'd march in the parking lot. People would be staring at us like, "What are you doing?" And then and I'm getting to an actual story here. Like we walked in, and we all just like sat down, our drums and everything in the hotel lobby. And there's all of the marching battery, and
They're just
we're a
like,
bunch
"What?"
of high school kids, and all these people are staring at us, and the hotel lobbies are staring at us, and Youngblood just disappears. He goes upstairs to figure out, I'm going to go find out where the homecoming event is. And this was back in the 90s when you could like smoke indoors. And so once he's out of the place, there's like little matchbooks. And so we're lighting matches and like putting them out in ashtrays and everything, and being absolute 16-year-old boys. And then about 30 seconds later, Youngblood comes running down the stairs going, "Marriott! We're supposed to be at the Marriott!" And so we packed up from the
Wrong
Hyatt,
hotel.
ran next door to the Marriott, marched in, played our set in a tiny crowd, like a little hotel ballroom, completely packed in by people where you're kind of have to push them out of the way to make the turn, and played it. Everybody cheered, and then we just went, got in the cars, and left.
All right.
I don't think I was involved in that. I do remember doing the Hard Rock parking lot in Dallas
Oh yeah,
for
that was a drum off
competition.
out there. Yeah, and we did the same thing there. We're surrounded by people, and we're marching in. And everybody else. is
That
just
was a
standing
teeny
in the line.
space, but yeah. I think I remember more of the competitions like that. North Texas drumline competition, a couple year, 2 years. One was outside, and the other one, I think it was raining, so we were in the gym.
Yeah.
And then UIL and whatever else. I don't remember the homecoming
Plano, I
stuff.
think. Yeah.
So we should probably wrap this up, but before we do, I want Bo to tell one more story. It has nothing to do with music.
All right.
It has everything to do with, you know which one I want.
My first car was a Toyota pickup truck, and so it carried a lot of drums in the back of it, and that was the whole point. And the paint job was terrible because everybody's drum hooks would scratch the side when they picked their drums up and put them over, so our carriers would scratch the paint. But I also pulled a few other shenanigans in that truck. Me and I guess I'll say his name, I believe our song, by the way, Cowboy from Cork, was written about this guy. I believe he was the inspiration of Cowboy from Cork. But saxophone player and our drum major from marching band, Mansour Kotfas. And then there was one other guy. We decided we're going to steal a Portapotty one night from a
construction site.
From a construction site that was like they were working on the gutters in the streets just a few blocks away from my house. And the Portapotty was there, and we're going to take it and go put it in a girl's front yard because we just thought that would be hilarious. And so we backed my truck up to it and I like shoved this thing into the back on its side, not thinking about the material inside has to go somewhere, right? Gravity's going to take over. And then somehow Mansour hops into the front. I didn't even know he knew how to drive stick shift, but he's driving my car, and then this other guy, who I believe was Matt Olmstead, start driving. So I just hop in the back, and we're driving off down the street. And next thing you know, I look down, and I'm kind of sitting in the back of the truck, and this thing's sitting sideways, and the blue and brown ooze is just leaking out all over the truck. And next thing you know, I'm standing up and trying not to get it on my feet. And we're about 2 blocks away, and I'm surfing the blue ooze and trying not to fall out of the car while there's stolen Portapotty and somebody else driving. And I just now start beating on the truck. Stop. We're done with this. I just hobbled it right there, and we just shoved it out in the middle of the road, like 2 blocks away, and a little bit messy on one side, and we didn't open the door to see what it looked like on the inside. And then I said, right now you're driving me to the nearest car wash where you put quarters in. And so we found a bunch of quarters, and we hosed all that stuff out. And
Brown Trail and Harwood.
That is
that's where it was. Well, Brown Trail had a new reason to be called that street that day.
Oh, good. That was good.
But then later I got into college, I found out that another friend of mine had also stolen a Portapotty. And so we were comparing Portapotty stealing. So
that's the story. I think that's the story I want to hear.
So he realized that you can just hit it with your truck. And he also had a pickup truck. And they don't fall over because all the weight's in the bottom of them. So he just started pushing it down the street and just starts driving along, and he's pushing it down the street. And he said he got it up to like 60 miles an hour. And then he hit a corner, and it went this way and then just tumbled through somebody's yard. And he pulled around a corner and hit the next stop sign, and it was him and then 3 police cars. And he pulled through, and they all pulled through behind him, and they pulled him over and just walked up and said, "Was that you?" And he said, "Yes, sir, that was me." And the police officer said, "I'm not going to take you to jail. I'm not even going to call your parents, but you're going to go clean that up." Wow. So he had to go hose it down and clean it up and take it back. And yeah.
See, that's what policing should be.
Yeah.
But I do think you should steal your own your album or song title there, Surfing the Blue Ooze.
The Blue Ooze.
Yeah. Our third album art will be a picture of a Portapotty.
On its side.
On its side.
With a blue lake of goo coming out the... Yeah.
Done. Nice.
Should we end it there?
We should.
Well, it was great seeing you, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
You haven't changed that much, so we should do this again.
Yeah, thanks for...
we should hang out. We all live close enough.
Yeah. Mike said you were down near San Marcos?
No, I was. I'm outside. I'm at Dripping Springs now.
Oh, okay. That's closer. Yeah. So I'm just outside of Round Rock, right in between Round Rock and Cedar Park. And Mike is East Austin.
Yeah, well, I just drove by you today then.
Oh, okay.
I drove back from Bedford seeing my parents.
Yeah, we drove back last night. So yeah, when you pass the Rudy's at Round Rock, I don't know if we're exactly 2 miles west of there. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Bo. I really appreciate it. It's good to hear the stuff again.
Yeah, I have more, but yeah, you guys, I highly encourage you find some other people from the band. I think Matt Olmstead would be a good one, and then we'll get you in touch with Youngblood too.
All right.
Perfect.
All right, and my wife just got home, so I'm going to log off. Thanks.
Right. Thank you for being part of it.
We'll talk later. Catch you
later.
Bye.
Mike's on mics, yeah.